I think HOAs have gotten to a point where it's so mandated and so strong towards what they want the homeowners to do. And at the end of the day, it's my house.
Right.
So I should be able to do as I please. Hey guys, Jose here with Elite Lending. I'm here with my real estate partner, Joe from Avenue Realty. We're just gonna have a conversation about what's going on in the housing market and how we can help you and your potential buyers be set up for success going into this new 2026 season. So Joe, thank you so much, brother,
Thank you,
for
my
making
brother.
the drive out here to beautiful Miramar.
Thank you
I
for
know
having me.
for you guys, it's a bit of a drive coming from Sunset, but you're here today, so we appreciate it.
To be here with our people, I'll make it happen every time.
Awesome, thank you, bro. So I wanted to touch on a couple of topics that kind of hot right now, kind of go back and forth and kind of debunk any myths and give some real good information to people out there watching this video. So I'm hearing a lot of news about HOAs, and there's some mumblings out there that, you know, HOAs may or may not be dissolved.
Correct.
What have you heard about that?
Yeah, so there is a bill that was passed recently in January that states that it'll become a majority vote amongst the people who live in the association, right? So it'll be a two-way system. It'll be done between the actual members of the community and the homeowners in the community. So it'll be a 20% behind the homeowners, and it'll be a 2/3 vote amongst the members, right? And if we dissolve the association, that's where the questions start coming in as far as where the pros and where the cons lie. There's a lot of pros and a lot of cons, as there is with everything,
Sure.
right? In my opinion, one of the biggest takeaways from that is for homeowners that look to have the freedom and the ability to do what they want to do with their property, it brings a lot of access for them. Now there's the other side of it where there's a lot of people that love that structure of having an association where everything's handled from landscaping to sewage to things of that nature. So it really depends on where you sit, right? And if you're somebody who likes the ability to have chairs on your front lawn and a grill in your backyard without anybody bothering you, paint your house the way you want to paint it, then this is probably going to be something that benefits you a lot. And if you are somebody of structure that likes to have everything uniform, then maybe this isn't going to be the best. But like I said, it's not being done away with completely, right? This is going to be something that comes down to a majority vote amongst the people. So that's a big thing as well. And the fact that it's not going to just be a mandated, you know, disclosure of it. So
I know for me, I live in an HOA now, and it's what you were saying, pros and cons.
Right.
I guess for me, one of the pros is the structure and the order, because I like that. You know, everybody's uniform, everybody's the same way. I guess for me, one of the cons is you want to go and do something in your house. It's your property. You got to go through a bunch of ladders and you got to jump through hoops just to get a fence painted.
Correct.
So I could see how that could be a benefit for some. I guess at the end of the day, it all depends on the homeowner.
Right.
But I like it. I think HOAs have gotten to a point where it's so mandated and so strong towards what they want the homeowners to do. And at the end of the day, it's my house.
Right.
So I should be able to do as I please.
Correct.
I don't know, we've been hearing a lot on the news also about these big companies. I know there was news about a week ago, you know, the president's trying to eliminate these big privatized companies from buying up all these single family homes. What do you think about that?
So when it comes down to that, in my opinion, less pro than it is con. Just for the simple fact that when you look at the percentages of large corporations owning single family homes, it's a small percentage.
Right.
If I'm not mistaken, last time I checked, it was like 3% nationally that's owned by these large corporations. So in reality, when you go ahead and you disband that ability for these large corporations to buy, it's not really affecting the overall population of single family homes. So it's not as big of a deal as some people are making it seem, but to a certain degree, it does help with smaller investors and people that are looking to be able to buy on a smaller level, first-time home buyers. It's taking away it was taking away a lot of ability from these people, and it was scaring them into not wanting to buy. Now, maybe a little bit more awakening to the buyers and more want to go out and buy, which is huge in my opinion as well. But long term, I don't think this is going to be a huge effect on the people.
Right. So you've been doing this for how long now?
Yeah, I've had my license a year now.
Okay. what are some things that you're seeing on the real estate side that's changed from when you started to now, as far as your buyers, as far as the market, a little bit of an update of kind of what some trends that you're seeing?
So I didn't have my license during COVID time, but I'm very aware of how the market was at that time, and we're definitely shifting completely away from that market, right? And we are starting to see a lot more active listings. We are starting to see the inventory come up, which is great. Florida being a very niche market, right? I mean, we're still seeing skyrocketed home prices, and I don't know how long it's going to be before that really goes away. I mean, we are starting to see the rental market kind of come down a little bit. Prices on rental units were absurd, and now we're finding a little bit more affordability, which is great for the renters market. But that kind of ties back into what I was saying with the whole banks and large corporations buying, right? We want to be able to entice first-time home buyers and people to come out, and you want to entice people to buy versus rent. So this is going to be big for that, I think, as well.
Yeah, I think when it comes to renting, I think we're at a point now where if someone really sits down and analyzes how much they're paying in rent, for just a couple more dollars, you can likely buy. At least on the mortgage side, I'm seeing a huge shift when it comes to inventory and affordability.
Absolutely. Especially
with the rate market now coming down, it's giving a lot of opportunity to these first-time home buyers who maybe a year ago, when rates were in the 7-8%,
right,
now we're teetering right around that 5-6%. And that makes a huge difference, because at a 7-8% to a 5-6%, we're talking about hundreds of dollars.
Correct.
In a payment difference. So that person who couldn't now can probably revisit it and be like, whoa, wait a minute. Now this is something in my wheelhouse. This is something I can afford. So when you deal with renters, do you have a sort of game plan or a strategy to kind of convert those at some point to buyers? And what does that look like to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think always that's the goal, right? I mean, when you think of the American dream, right, to own your home, to have family, to have assets, right? Renting just doesn't fall into that lifestyle, right? So, of course, renting is a very suitable option for a lot of people when it comes to affordability and not having the ability to pay or be in a financial situation to handle that, which is totally understandable. But like you were saying, long term, of course, coming in with a strategy of slowly but surely trying to not be a financial advisor for these people, but trying to get them to start thinking with that mindset of, okay, look, renting will only go so far, right? Eventually you want to be able to call home, home. And I think that's very important for people. So trying to push that mentality onto these people little by little will start to, in my opinion, get these people to think outside of just renting.
Yeah, and it's just giving the clients knowledge, right?
Right.
Like setting them up for success, because a lot of people have been renting their whole lives. There's nothing wrong with that, but maybe the fear of the unknown, of not knowing if I can buy a home or not, kind of scares people away. And I think that's
correct,
where the realtor-broker relationship is so important, because we need to mold these people and get them ready to potentially buy. Maybe not a month, 3 months, 6 months down the line, but maybe a year from now.
Correct.
When their situation changes, maybe it's just a temporary rental and they do want to buy in the future. It's on us to really coach and give them the right information to set them up for that success, for that purchase.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you, we're talking about the Miami market, right? It's a different animal. It's a different beast altogether. What would you say, because I know you're originally from Jersey.
Yes.
Right? You were there, lived there
18 years.
18 years.
Majority of my life, yeah.
What would you say would be the main difference between what you're seeing in Jersey compared to what you're seeing in Miami? Because Miami's just, we're seeing an influx.
Yeah.
If you've noticed, we're getting an influx of people coming from other states.
And a lot coming from that area, New Jersey, New York area. The tri-state area loves it down here.
Why do you think that is?
I think a big thing. It really comes down to is a lot of culture too, because a lot of the people that live up there have family here, started down here, moved up there, right? So I think that's a big thing. But then, I'll be honest with you, the affordability up there right now is nothing to play around with either, right? So I recently just went back over there for the holidays. And just for fun, I was dabbling into some of the rental prices over there and looking at what my friends were looking at to get into. And we're talking 2-1 units, two units going for $3,500, $3,600 a month, right? I mean, insane. And that's why I was talking about the rental market here kind of chilling out a little bit. It's actually becoming a little more affordable to live down here than it is up there, right? The taxes, the state taxes up there, it's about 13% versus the 7 that we have down here. It's insane, right? And I think that's another big reason why people are starting to come down here as well, minus the fact that we have warm weather.
Well, that always helps because who doesn't want to go from 20-degree weather to now
Right.
we're sitting here in an office looking outside, it's crisp 70 plus degrees. So obviously that does attract a lot of people.
Can't go wrong.
What would you say, we're just into a couple of days into the new year. What are some goals for yourself, not only personally, but professionally, that you're trying to achieve this upcoming year?
Yeah, absolutely. So this year is, I think, like I said, my first serious year in real estate. I set together a 2026 business plan for myself to achieve $125,000 net in commission for the year. That's my goal. I think with the listings I already have and the potential listings that I have coming my way, it's very feasible. And my goal is by the end of this year to purchase my first multifamily.
That's awesome.
That's really my main goal. I would say long term, I'm looking to also eventually get my broker's license and try to partner up bigger than what I'm doing at the moment.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you mentioned multifamily.
Yes.
Why multifamily? And
It's
I know
the
where
best way.
I know I'm going. I think you know where I'm going with this, but if you kind of expand on it, because I know what your answer is going to be, but I want the people who are watching this to kind of really get it into their head and understand the whole reason for multifamily.
Right. So, I mean, when it comes down to investing, right, I mean, it's just the best way you can go about it. With the ability to live in one unit and rent out the other and potentially even have the one renter be able to pay off the mortgage for the unit, I mean, it's really a no-brainer, right?
Thank you.
And then you go ahead and after a year or two, mind you, also being able to apply for the FHA loan, huge. And then being able to homestead the property, huge. And then after a year or two, you want to get out and rent both units and move elsewhere you can, right?
Everybody heard me on that? Everybody heard me. I want focus right here. You're going to be having your renters pay your mortgage. Okay, that's huge.
I mean, let the
That's huge.
bank handle everything, right? I mean, use the bank's money as much as you can.
Leverage. It's all about leverage. That's great.
And people fear that, unfortunately, which is the biggest reason I think people are scared to get into a mortgage versus renting.
Yeah, I guess that's for everybody, the fear of the unknown. And that's why it always comes down to knowledge. Knowledge. Hey, you're going to fear what you don't know. But if you prepare yourself and you set yourself with professionals like Joe, like myself, who know the market, know the industry, know what things go for.
Right.
At the end of the day, we're here to make sure our clients succeed and we put them in the best possible position, not only short term, long term, because that's generational wealth. A lot of people don't know real estate is one of those things where you're always going to have it there. You're always going to have it. It's not like the stock market, up, down, up, down. You got multifamily property or rental property that's going to generate income. All of that is just money that's going to come back to you. So that's great. I love that.
Correct.
All right, so we're talking about buyers now.
Yeah.
What are some from the real estate side? Because I know I have my mortgage do's and don'ts of what I want my clients to do and not to do. But what would you say, or what would you advise your clients who are starting the process of purchasing? What are some do's and don'ts and some realistic things that, or some myths? Because people go into house hunting and they're thinking one thing, but that's not the reality.
Correct.
So what are some tips and tricks that you would give your clients as they're starting the search?
Absolutely. You know, it's funny you mentioned that too. I just had this conversation with Armando yesterday about this. Talking about realistic, right? When it comes down to it, it's please, guys. You know, we love to help our buyers out. Absolutely, client first over everything.
Sure.
But unfortunately, we come in with a lot of unrealistic plans and a lot of unrealistic thoughts on what's going to happen with the home buying experience. And we just had a client the other day who wanted to get into a Brickell unit.
Okay.
Right? And apparently the father was like, look for a unit that's $200,000 max.
In Brickell.
I said, okay, good luck with that. And then on top of that, wanted a high-end luxury. Listen, like I said, we do whatever we can to try to help our clients, but come in realistic. You know, let us help you make things happen in a realistic way. When you come in asking for a high-end luxury unit in Miami Beach, Brickell, Doral, you name it, and you expect to come in buying a unit for $200,000, it's not going to happen, right? So I think that's my number one thing is when helping a buyer client is make sure that what you're planning is actually realistic and can happen. That's number one. And then the second thing I think is always trying to inform the buyer of a proper decision, right? Because they're going to be looking here, they're going to be looking there, their mind's going to be everywhere, right? Because the emotional attachment to a property comes in heavily, right? When you're dealing with a high-end commercial unit or you're dealing with people that are investors, you know, there's no emotional attachment. It's all business. But when you're helping somebody get into their first home or their first rental unit or something like that, it's always going to be that emotional attachment.
Yeah.
So you just want to make sure that you guide them into a proper choice and a choice that's going to benefit them and not letting the emotion just let them run wild.
Okay, so we spoke about when you're helping out your buyers. That's great information, by the way. I don't think a lot of people need to hear that because I think people want to eat with their eyes and don't realize the full scope of it. So let's turn that around the other way.
Okay.
You have a client wants to sell their home. What is some do's and don'ts or some tips and tricks that you would give that client that you're trying to list their home? Because I think exactly what you said for buyers, I think a lot of that can also relate to your sellers as well.
1,000%. And that's exactly what I would have said there. Same thing. I mean, when you're dealing with a seller, a lot of times the emotion comes in as well, especially there because now they've lived in the home for X amount of years. They really have memories and attachments to that property, right? So when it comes down time to selling, they want the most out of their property because they feel their property is worth the most, right? And I've dealt with clients in the past that get impact windows installed in their house and their house is built in 1951 and they're over here like, well, my house is in perfect condition. And I'm like, okay, well, the market value on the property says this, I think we should list at a reasonable number. And that's a big thing too, because when you list at exact market value, a lot of times you don't get the eyes on it. You want to kind of maybe create like a little bit of a bidding war sometimes. So you got a little bit lower, right? But their standards are just set so high. And knocking that sense of reality, once again, same thing on the buyer side, into the sellers is super important.
Yeah, I think sometimes sellers can be a little unrealistic because they go in with the emotional attachment and not realistic. But one thing I will give you and your team credit, you guys set the standard from the beginning. I've been in the office with these guys when they're making those cold calls, which are tough, to old listings that have probably been sitting there for a couple months that just go stale, and they land them. Why? Because they're honest and they're realistic with their clients. So I gotta give you guys kudos to that. You guys do a great job. You and your team do a great job with that. So guys, if you want a great agent, great. I'm not saying that because you're in front of me. I've been in the office with this young man when he's making calls. He's not only good at what he does, but he cares about people. So if you're looking for a good agent, Joe's IG is going to be on the bottom of this video. Do me a favor, give him a follow. Give Avenue Realty a follow, Elite Lending FL, and follow your boy.
Absolutely.
Joe, thank you so much, brother, for the time.
Thank you, my
Appreciate
brother.
you. God
Always
bless.
do, man.
See you guys on the other side of the tripod.